My screen keeps moving. Okay.
Didn't realize I was muted for a second. Hello.
Hey, Mo, how are you? How are you?
I'm good. Let me turn on my video. There we go.
Okay, awesome.
Hi.
Awesome. Well, guys, we're going to talk about cannabis events, and I asked Mo to be on, and Ernest, your camera should work now. I figured out what it was earlier, if I'm not mistaken. But guys, I asked her to come on because in a new industry, in a new market, events play a huge role in a lot of things. It plays a role in promoting your business out to the community. Events play a role with building a structure and a team component to your internal staff. And so I asked Mo to come on, and I wanted to talk about a couple things, and I wanted to kind of keep it simple. And I asked Ernest to come on also because he has dealt with large corporate events, and I kind of want to have a conversation kind of merging the two. And I want to just start by asking you, Mo, from your experience of doing corporate events, doing team building events, would you say that there is a right way and a wrong way to do an event?
Absolutely.
Is that me? Did we just lose her?
She's back.
Okay, good deal.
I think we did. I think she might be trying to reconnect at some point in time.
I think it lost me. Can you hear me?
I got you. Got you, Mo.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, definitely. When it comes to a successful event, at first you won't know what's right or wrong because it really depends on the your event, target audiences, whether it is your team of employees, or if it is a community event or a corporate event, or like a summit. It really depends. I would say the most key things to focus on when doing events is the marketing side. The purpose, what the theme is, and what is the purpose of the event, whether you're marketing a product, or if it is for team building, or if it is an introduction to your brand. That's the most important thing. So when you say if there's a right or wrong way, it depends on the organization. That's a major part of it as well. Making sure you have each piece in place. You're gonna need a team. I started doing this by myself. I still kind of do a lot of these things by myself, and things go wrong each time. But those are just the little kind of fires that come with events. I guess if you want to dig a little deeper in that question and kind of give me an example on what you want to expand on, I'd be happy to do that too as well.
Well, we could do that, but Ernest, because she just gave one perspective, and I guess because I've seen corporate events done a lot of different ways, and I've seen team building done a lot of different ways. And when I say right and wrong, I have seen corporate events done where the food didn't match up with the people that were at the event. You got people in formal dress wear, at a cocktail type situation, and one of the food items, which was the only protein out there, were chicken wings. What's the downside to chicken wings? You got carcasses on plates all over the place, and people are putting bones all over the place. It's not a good look when people are taking pictures, and in the background and everybody's picture at the table, there's piles and piles of bones. It's just the aesthetics of it and that kind of stuff. Because I've been to some crappy events that cost a lot of money, but I've been to some events that were done on the less expensive side that were just really creative, that left a huge impact on the audience and the attendees, that when they walked out, they're like, damn, I want to come back to that. Not realizing, that was a small one-off kind of situation. So that's awesome there. But Ernest, could you kind of share, for a corporate event or something like that, she talked about marketing, but the lead up, what are some things that people should be thinking about? I'm asking both of you this, but in regards to that marketing, what are some things that people should be thinking of leading up to that event, whether it is a grand opening or whether it is a new product launch? What should people be thinking leading up to it?
Yeah, I'm going to say something that's very similar. I think marketing is such a huge role. It plays a huge role in everything that you do. Even what you described, like the aesthetics of, trying to have, making sure that like the food and the, what you're, the food, the beverages, the stuff that you're serving matches like the style of the event, that's also like telling a story and presenting a message. So there's elements of marketing that's going to touch every single event. I think the most important thing is to really understand, like, what is it that you're trying to convey with the event? Is it going to be mostly for networking? Is it going to be educational? Okay. Is it going to achieve some type of outcome? Maybe you're trying to raise funds, or, you're trying to get investors or policymakers out there. Either way, it sort of starts with, the way that we would do it. We were running, these big cannabis industry events is we start with a creative brief, and in marketing agencies, that's literally you trying to figure out, okay, well, who are we trying to reach? What's the story we're trying to tell? And from there, that's going to sort of set the tone of how everything that you do to communicate it, to promote it is going to, have an impact. Here's a good example. Like when I was working at MJ Biz, a lot of people in the industry would recognize MJ BizCon as like the leading cannabis business conference and expo. And in 2019, a year before the pandemic started, there were 33,000 people from 80 countries that showed up. That's an event that is had a reputation of this is where everybody in the industry comes to go to convene. The challenges with that is it's so big that it's nearly impossible for you to have lots of meaningful conversations with people. So, you're not going to promote that event as being a place where you're going to have deep, intimate conversations with people, because the volume is, it's just impossible to do. If we'd have a smaller event, like, that same year, we put on an event in called the Latin American Cannabis Symposium in Bogota, Colombia. Colombia had a history, a really awful history with, the drug war, and their government has, had warmed up to creating a medical cannabis market. So we're putting an event down there, trying to educate people about the opportunities to participate. And one of the things that you have to realize is that's a culture that focuses on community and building and conversation. It's not business first. So you don't have that event structured where you're just going to immediately talk about business. You have to have a lot of places for people to convene, network, and socialize. So the food, the color, the atmosphere was honestly more important than the educational piece, because that you're trying to put on an event that is going to cater to people's ability to build relationships.
Right.
And, so it really all depends on what you're trying to do, but it starts with understanding your audience, and a lot of marketing goes into it.
Yeah, definitely. Mariah,
Sure,
I wanted to ask you something, because you are not located in Virginia, but I think you can still give some valuable insight as to how should people go about looking to try and find a professional to help out with events? Because the first thing people always do is, just go on to Google. And then you go on to Google, and then it's going to be a ton of ads that people have paid for to be at the top of that search. But that doesn't necessarily mean those are the right people for them to work with, or doesn't mean that they're a company working in the right budget. How would you suggest, Mo, that people go about trying to get connected with someone to help them out with events so they don't have to do all the heavy lifting?
So I would say, generally, if they're a larger company, they would have a marketing department who handles the event planning. Now, if they're outsourcing, yes, first thing is go to Google, but I actually I would just straight up look up cannabis events, cannabis event planning, because that is a thing now. That is something that I'm specializing in as well. And normally, because it is such a small like niche in event planning, the people who do those things, they're out guerrilla marketing and marketing themselves like I do. They're most likely reaching out potentially in your city, which if you haven't, heard from people, I can't promise, that's happening in Virginia, but I do know, at least in Colorado and Denver right now, I know of 4 other event planners who do cannabis events and have reached out to a lot of companies in the city to do events either with their companies or to collaborate on like larger community events. Because it is the same thing I've done. I've collaborated with other event planners as well, because they're just becoming increasingly more popular. If you are looking for just assistance in general, though, with just like logistics and things like that, a regular event planner can help you. If you are not looking for them to take over the marketing aspect, because that's where it becomes a little tricky. They need to be aware of, the legalities surrounding marketing with cannabis to be able to take over that realm. But if you're not passing off that responsibility and it's just simply the event planning, finding the venue, creating the atmosphere, for focusing on the aesthetic, the colors, the food, the DJ, the sound, security, all of that, those are all things that a regular event planner can do. So don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who doesn't necessarily have too much experience in the cannabis industry if you're not necessarily passing off the marketing aspect, because I think that's where it really turns into needing someone with that experience in the industry. I did want to touch on earlier what you said too about, what both of you guys said, creating that atmosphere, focusing on the colors, what makes an event, good or not so good, and how to connect with your target audience. I wanted to give an example. Last night, I actually just did my final puff and paint of the year, which is kind of like a sip and paint, but it's a puff and paint. And when you talk about theme, I just want to say and emphasize again and agree with you guys on how important it is to really build that atmosphere. I have a theme for every event. This theme was tropical. Originally, it was planned for the day before Jamaican Independence Day. I had Jamaican themed food. I had a Jamaican DJ. We played Caribbean and tropical and Afro themed music. I focused on it being all Black women as well, Black owned vendors for everything that I use. I normally use like fresh, crisp, like greens and like, earthy tones to create that vibe. I have a plant wall. And a lot of the people who come to my events are the Canna Curious. I focus on the Canna Curious because part of my brand is destigmatizing the plant for professionals and other people who are not necessarily the stereotypical stoner that people keep trying to push, we're like that stoners are lazy, everybody uses cannabis. So I try to focus on the professionals, the Canna Curious, and then creating an environment that still feels professional. We are doing normal lifestyle activities, but we're incorporating cannabis and plant medicine within those activities. And when doing that, we're creating community. We are still connecting to culture, specifically keeping that minority representation involved in the cannabis industry by making it Black owned or POC owned. I would like to focus on, the women this time. So it was all Black women and just keeping to that theme and aesthetic. That's where you really want to focus on when it comes to aesthetic and the atmosphere, the culture. It's the culture. And it is the looks, and then it is the target audience themselves. Who are you marketing to? So I just wanted to, before I forgot that, I wanted to throw that in there as well.
Excuse me. And I appreciate you sharing that because that is very key. Because like Tony was talking about, raise capital, get your store open, get the people in. If you're not getting foot traffic, you need some events. And if you start doing events and people still aren't showing up, you need to find out what the heck are you doing wrong with your events, because people don't typically ignore a party of some sort. And so
they definitely don't.
That typically is, people don't typically turn down a party. So, guys, I wanted to bring on someone whose background and whose professional workspace is in events, because I wanted you all to hear from someone that does this as a living, but I wanted you to hear from them so you understood how you may do events may not necessarily be what you need for your event. So if you're the person that does birthday parties and we got one color birthday, balloon, you did your kid's birthday party, you got a cake and some balloons and you thought that's a party. Well, you must not have had little girls like I did, but that ain't a party. A party involves atmosphere, multiple balloon colors, having a cake, having a small cake for kids, having popsicle, all of that stuff rounds out the event. So I wanted you all to get some exposure, and we'll be talking about events more and more in the future, because as the industry rolls out, everyone launches their business and everyone does some sort of soft rollout with events. And you need to have a playbook in your head of how you want your event to play out for your business launch. But you also need to have an idea about events so you don't end up spending $40,000 on an event, because I've seen people spend 40 grand on something and 2 customers come out of it. That was not good. When the vice president found that out, they didn't do any more of those. That budget got sent somewhere else. That was a corporation. We're talking about your pocket now because it's your business. So I wanted to bring Ernest and Mo on to talk about these things because of their experiences. And like I said, we'll be talking more about this, guys, because you have to have knowledge of everything for your business. You may not do everything, you may not touch everything, but you best believe if someone's doing an event to rep your company, you sure as hell need to know what they're supposed to be doing at that event to rep your company. Because if you don't, and they go out and do what they had in their head, your business may not be getting represented right. So, it's good to have professional people. As I say, I like hiring professionals because professionals get paid to do what they do. So therefore they know how to do what it is they're supposed to be doing. And Mo, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all of this on Saturday. And I want to broaden the conversation down the road to talk a lot more about that environment and stuff like you guys were talking about in the aesthetics, because everybody needs to have a perception of what they have to enter the market doing because of budget, but they also need to have an idea of what they want it to scale to, so you got something to shoot for. So before I let you guys go and we close out this section, do you have anything you want to share in closing? Any closing thoughts?
Ernest, you want to go first, or?
Yeah. Actually, I think that when you in the future, when you're having conversations about that may be more event specific, I think a lot of times it's easy to say to have your mind go to okay, throwing an event for my business has to be like a big in-person gathering where you do all the, sometimes when you're getting your business started, you have to make sure those resources are going to go, a long ways.
Right.
Sort of just like any, there's so many different ways that you can go about marketing your business. And just because those options are out there doesn't mean that you have to do it, so you can even think of an event, a soft announcement, as something that can be virtual or even, through like communication channels, right? Hey, we just opened up. Maybe like that event can sort of be like the announcement that you make through social media or through like a mail list that you've cultivated. It could be something where you're trying to, give away some type of, a discounted or, trial offerings for people to, be a part of your customer base. So just even thinking about that word, it can be, large or small in-person gatherings, but it could also be, it could take the form and shape of a lot of different other ways.
Yeah, it could be a streamed event. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things. So we want you guys to be creative, to be able to maximize what you have budget-wise. And sometimes you just got to get a little bit more creative. So once again, I want to thank both of you for hopping on. And I really appreciate your time. And we'll definitely be talking more down the road.
For sure, for sure. And then I guess my last comment too, because I know I got too much into the aesthetic a little bit. The last couple points I will make is based on what you're screen sharing. When it comes to community events versus private events, check your limitations. Generally, that depends on the venue and the marketing, again, what the legalities are surrounding the communication and what you can market. Characteristics of a good grand opening event, focus on the audience, and then marketing scheduling. When it comes to marketing scheduling, pay attention to the engagement of your consumers and how quickly they respond to things and how quickly they may lose interest. Generally, I would say when it comes to products, probably just a week or to maybe 2 weeks, but I would say a week. Generally, that's what I see from dispensaries and other product brands, even on just social media alone. And then types of team building events, if you want to do more internal stuff, focus on the activities, things with teams, smaller teams, like games or field days, even like the paint classes, or like, maybe going to the park and, coming up with some type of like communication style type activity where you can talk to each other outside of the workplace, because you're going to be in a different environment. It's going to change the mood. You're going to feel more open and more free. So those are kind of my last comments on these 3 bullet points, but I didn't put my information in the chat for anyone who wants to connect and talk more in depth, because I definitely have a lot more to share with you guys if you have any more questions. So.
Awesome. Thank you both for plugging in and helping us out. And guys, we're going to go ahead and move to our break.